In this video, I'm going to have a chat to you a little bit about my editing tools. I'm going to talk about the Wacom tablet that I use. I've just bought a new one and I'm going to quickly explain why I've done that and how I'm going to set it up. I've been using this one here. It's a Wacom Intuos Pro for about, I think, 8 years now. And since the more recent updates have come to my operating system with the Mac, I'm finding that it doesn't work with Lightroom in the way that it used to, and that's meaning that I'm having to go back to using the keyboard shortcuts. And I decided to go with this one here. It's the Wacom Intuos Pro, and it's in the medium size. And the reason I went for the medium was not so much because I want the area or the tablet area to draw on. And in fact, I'm worried about having the bigger area might make it harder because you've got to move further to get the same result. But what I wanted the extra shortcut buttons. And if you have a look on any of these tablets, they have these buttons here. And what that does is you can pre-program these to replace keyboard buttons. And it makes it really, really efficient when you start getting into editing images, and that way you don't have to worry about using the keyboard in a lot of cases at all. Now with only 6 buttons there, it was a bit harder, and now with this not working at all with Lightroom, I had to start using the keyboard shortcuts to get the results that I wanted. So I went ahead and I got this one here. Now I'll quickly just take this one out of the box. This is not going to be a review, by the way. This is just me explaining a little bit about using a Wacom tablet and my thinking when it comes to setting it up, because I think if I'd had somebody help me in the beginning understand a bit about the best way to go about setting up my tablet, I think it would have been helpful. So I'm hoping this will help you. Now inside the box, as you can imagine, is the Wacom tablet. Just from a size point of view, I'll just give you a bit of a look at the difference in size. It's the same height as the Intuos 4, and it's about 1 inch longer, 3 centimeters. Now, I went with this size because, as I said, I want the 8 buttons, but I also think it will fit in my laptop bag with my laptop. Also in the box is the Pro Pen 2, which I'm pretty excited about. I've heard it's pretty awesome compared to the old one that I've been using. And these pens have special nibs in the end of them that help you write on this tablet smoothly. This is the pen stand, so this is a little stand the pen goes in, and it's covered in plastic at the moment, but if I take this plastic off, I can show you how that works. The pen stands in there like that, and I believe in the base of this, I don't know how to get in there yet, but I believe in the base of it is where all the little nibs are. This old one here was the same. It's a bit easy to get into. I don't know how well you can see that, but those little things are like tips, pen tips if you like. And you're able to change the pen tips out to something that you liked. To be honest, I hardly ever did it. And then, of course, the only other thing in this box is a cable to connect it to the computer. Now, the difference with this new one and the old one is this new one is a rechargeable Bluetooth, which I'm really excited about because I have quite often with this one, I've got quite a long cable, and that was so I could do this and I could work on an image whilst I was hand holding my tablet. So I'm hoping to still be able to do that. And these buttons are really easy to get to on the left hand side. Now when it comes to assigning different functions to these buttons, one of the things or the mistake that I made, I guess in the beginning, was I just grabbed my tablet, I plugged it in, and then I just started using it. I didn't really understand the best way to set it up. I've made a list of all the different shortcuts that I use or keystrokes that I use on a regular basis when I'm editing photos in Lightroom. Now, one of the things to understand about this tablet is that you can set these buttons up to do different things in different applications. So this is just for my Lightroom. In Photoshop, for example, I'll set it up slightly different because I use different functions more regularly in Photoshop. And things like Command or Control Z, I think, or Command Z, I'm not sure what it is on a PC, will undo in Lightroom and continue to undo. If you press Command Z, which is the undo command in Photoshop, and then you do it again, it just undoes the undo, if that makes sense. So it just redoes what you undid. So yeah, it's a different set of keys to get the same result. So the good thing about this tablet is it is fully programmable. You can go through and you can program each of these buttons for every single application, whether it's Photoshop, Lightroom, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, Microsoft Word, whatever you like. It'll work with whatever you want. So I went through and just had a look at the most common things that I use, and you might like to copy these settings for yours. So I'll quickly run through them. So first of all, I use the tab key a lot. Now the tab key, all it does is it removes the menus from the sides of the screen. So instead of having all this information on the sides of the screen, it removes those and it sort of expands my image so I get to see more of my image. So the tab key is one that I definitely think I will be putting in there. The next one that I use is the L. The letter L gives you this lights out feature. So as you can see, the background's now gone black. And so I'm going to put the L key on my tablet. The next one is O for mask. Now, we're not going to see anything here if I hit the O key because we haven't masked anything and we're in the libraries. We're going to the develop module. And in this develop module, if we decide that we're going to do some work on here, let me grab a brush and I will brush, let me just brush here over the whites here. If I press the O key, you'll see that that area goes red. Now the reason for that is because that's your mask. So the O key actually shows you what you're affecting. So I quite like having the O key. I use it a lot. I quite like, I like to see my mask as I'm going through doing it. So the next one is the D key. So as before, you would have seen that I was in the library. Now in the library, what I like to be able to do if I decide I'm going to work on a photo, a click of the D key and you're straight into the develop module. So I quite often use the D as a shortcut, and that's one that I will definitely be putting onto the tablet. Shift key is another key that needs to be used a lot to do different things inside of Lightroom. You have to hold down the shift key. Same with the alt option key. Okay, so they're called modifier keys, and what that means is you press that, hold it down whilst you click another key, and that modifies the behavior of the second key that you click. So the shift key and the alt option and the space key is another very important one for inside Lightroom. Let's say I'm editing in Lightroom, doing some healing brush, for example, and I might be zoomed quite, in a fair way, which I normally am, and I'll remove a spot, and then what I want to do is I want to move. Well, I can't click and drag anymore because I've lost my hand. So I've got to either exit out of this tool, or I can just hold the space key, and you'll see my cursor becomes a little hand, and I can then drag this across and find the next thing that I want to remove. I can remove it. I can then do the same thing, hold down the space key. So these, once again, I don't want to be using the keyboard, so I'm going to have the space key programmed in. The backslash is another key that I use a lot. Backslash on the keyboard gives you before and after. So, before and after. So the backslash key gives me that feature. So I want to be able to do that without having to worry about using the keyboard. And that's pretty much all of those buttons. That's how I'm going to set up those buttons. If you're wondering, there's a little jog dial in the middle here. Let's just take it out of this plastic so it's a bit easier. Oh, it's nice. It's really nice. So you'll see here there's like a button, and then there's a jog wheel. And that allows you to change through 4 different functions. And then this is like a zoom in, zoom out. So I use that for brush size and use it for scrolling in. It's like a zooming in and zooming out. So that'll be really good. And then on the pen, you also have 2 buttons here on the front of the pen. One is going to be programmed to Control Z for undo, and the other one will be double click. And on the back here, I'll leave it as an eraser. And that's what you have on the pen. So double click, undo, and eraser. And so that sort of gets just about everything set up. There's a few other things that I use, but they're probably the ones that are most common. Now, where am I going to use those? So what I did then was I just drew up another piece of paper. I don't know if you can see that too well. It's not easy, but I just drew up another diagram just to help me as I go through and set it up decide, or so I don't have to decide anymore. I've worked out exactly what buttons on this tablet I'm going to assign each function to. Now, the good thing about these is they have a feel on them. This one didn't have it. And so you sort of had to feel through the buttons. But what I've noticed about this new tablet is it's got these little, like almost like a braille type thing on the button. So it's going to make it really easy to be able to feel which button I'm on. So yeah, really looking forward to that. I'll get it set up, and hopefully that'll make my editing a lot smoother. Now, if you have got a tablet and you've been thinking about how do I go about setting it up for Lightroom, as I said earlier, this is, you can set this up for any application. So what I've gone through is just my thinking behind how to think about setting up your tablet. I've given you what my settings are going to be for Lightroom, but you can choose whatever you like. I guess the thing is that when I first got my first tablet, I didn't really have a clear understanding of how to go about assigning my buttons until, you know, I've got to a point where I've been using it for a long time. Anybody asks me about a Wacom tablet or any tablet, I say before you even hook it up, don't even get it out of the box. Sit down and think about what each button is going to do first. You can always change them later, of course, but I'd rather get it set up from the beginning, because if you move your settings throughout time, it's going to get confusing. So get really clear, what are the shortcuts I use the most, program them into those buttons, and then away you go. Super, super efficient Lightroom editing, or anything editing. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you've enjoyed the video or you're new around here, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you enjoy this type of content, and that way you'll never miss out on any future videos at all. The other thing to do is make sure you give it the thumbs up if you did enjoy the video. And down below, I'd love to hear what it is that you do. How do you set up your tablet? Is there any other shortcuts that you've assigned? Have you got one of these new Wacom? Well, it's not new, it's new to me, but it's a newer model. Have you got one of these newer Wacom Pros, and how have you set it up? What have you found to work really well? I'd be interested to hear down below in the comments. All right, until next time, get out there and take some photos. See ya.